Hey everyone, welcome back. This is CNY Conversations, and this is episode 24. 24 episodes already. I am Jason Clank, and today I am here with Beth Ann Dice. Beth is the region's only certified cancer exercise specialist and a breast cancer recovery specialist. She does a ton of work in this space, working with people diagnosed with cancer, cancer survivors, women with chronic illness, just to help them gain back a sense of normalcy, their mobility, and to take back their health at the very most. So, Beth, I thank you for joining me here today.
And thank you for inviting me and having me on today.
Awesome. It's so timely and appropriate, being well, as we record this is the month of October and known as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Such a great cause. And I was thinking back to when I was in the last fire department I was in. One of the coolest things I got is they gave all the members a pink helmet front for breast cancer awareness, set it right on there, just as the acknowledgement of this great cause and this great mission. Beth, why don't you go into your background and how you got into this space and the work that you do?
Sure. So I really got into the wellness space, just kind of working through some of my own health challenges. Social media is a great thing. And as I started sharing, kind of my journey, which with actually with chronic digestive disease, as well as some heart and circulatory things that were hereditary. You start sharing these things, and everybody's like, "Oh, I have those issues too," or "Can you help me?" And all of a sudden, what was kind of like my own little personal thing had blossomed into this amazing business. And in January 2020, before the pandemic was even really a thing, my day job in tech had been eliminated, and I'm like, okay, it's time to take this full time.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing what was actually on the horizon for all of us.
Sure.
And one of the certifications that had always kind of been in the back of my mind was the cancer exercise specialist, as well as the breast cancer certification. And as I was going through that, I started to realize that because my wellness studio is small and I was just kind of different from most fitness people, I was attracting a lot of women who weren't necessarily comfortable in a regular gym or had other health issues, and a regular gym was not appropriate for them. And there's so much focus as I'm going through the cancer exercise certification on some of the things that happen to you as you go through cancer treatment, that creates chronic illness, that it just seemed kind of the thing for me to continue on with. And then, as I delved further into the breast cancer recovery certification, um, I just really saw a true need. And, while I've had a few scares myself, I've never actually had breast cancer, but certainly have had a number of friends and family who have gone through it. Someone who I knew was actually one of my first breast cancer recovery clients. She had gone through breast cancer treatment during COVID, which was kind of an interesting thing to watch her navigate.
Wow.
Um, so in a lot of ways, she was kind of my guinea pig, for a lot of the things that I was learning, which was just great. But it's just been some of the most rewarding work that I have done. I have one of my oldest clients is in her 80s. She is a 22-year breast cancer survivor.
Wow.
And she read an article about me, and her son actually drives her up from the Syracuse area a couple times a month to see me and work with me, and then I, send her homework. But just, she was one of the people that hadn't healed properly, which, she spent 22 years hunched over, and we're working on getting her opened up so that she has better balance, because she realized as she was getting older that because she healed kind of hunched over, in what's called
Hmm.
upper cross syndrome, that as she got older and less stable, because her posture was not what it should be, she was definitely at greater risk of falls.
Wow. Wow. I think that in some way or fashion, and for everybody, and I almost forgot to mention this, if you're watching the podcast now or listening to it later on, if you find any value in this content here today, please share it with anyone that's closest to you that could value from the services and the information that Beth Ann provides. But with that, I think that breast cancer specifically has probably touched many people, most people, and I can think of my maternal grandmother, died in the late 50s from breast cancer just because the medicine and technology wasn't there yet. And now you
Sure.
fast forward to today and you have genetic testing and different preventative methods that are helping women not only avoid breast cancer, but if they do get diagnosed, to be able to get the best treatment possible and recovery possible. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen for women that may have gotten a diagnosis or may have had a procedure done, and how they move forward from that?
Sure. So, I touched on my client who's in her 80s and the fact that she didn't heal right. Um, you know, so often we have an idea, and even the medical community sometimes doesn't understand this, which is always interesting, that it's important to remain active during your treatment as well as after your treatment. Certainly, you don't want to go outside of doctor's orders or do anything that is, risky. But if you can keep moving during treatment and then definitely after treatment, it's going to make that outcome much stronger. So some of the things that we see is, I touched on upper cross syndrome, which basically, you have surgery and you're kind of afraid to move. So you kind of sit
Mm,
on your couch or in your recliner and you're just kind of hunched over, and that this is how you heal. I see a lot of shoulder mobility issues, even in women that have healed properly. Um, you know, so there's kind of just this thought process that I'm going through cancer treatment, so I can't get out and walk. I can't
mm,
do certain things. When really the opposite is true. It's important to keep moving. A diagnosis of any cancer, especially for a woman with breast cancer, if there has to be a mastectomy or any type of surgery, society kind of ties the breast so much into our identity
mm,
that it really creates kind of some psychological issues. And exercising and moving during cancer treatment has the same benefits, um, you know, that it does if you're a healthier person. As far as improving your mood, keeping your energy up, all of those sorts of things. Um, so I try to educate the medical community as much as I can that, if I'm going to work with your client while they're going through treatment, I'm not going to have them out, running a 5K. I'm not going to have them, trying to power lift 300
right,
pounds, anything like that.
right.
I'm going to do things that are appropriate for the treatment that they're going through.
Yeah, and if I think about it, any procedure, you go in and have surgery or you have a procedure, the first thing that most medical professionals want you to do is get up and walk. Get up and
Right.
walk and start taking
Exactly.
steps. I
Hmm.
just saw, not that it's related to breast cancer, but I just saw an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he had gone in for a heart procedure that went horribly wrong, and he ended up on a vent. And they told him, we got to get you up moving around. You're really going to get past this. The next 48 hours or whatever it was so crucial for him. But they're like, you got to move. You got to be able to move, because if you don't move, we may have to do something else. And
Exactly.
it's and then going back to what you were saying about the mental aspect, it's just, I mean, society's views of women are their figure, unfortunately, a lot of the time.
Hmm.
And when they have a procedure where they're removing part of their body that really is associated with them being female, that mentally has to be so hard. I mean, I have to imagine that depression and anxiety and everything that goes along with it really plays a factor in that type of procedure.
It really does. And, while there are probably more options now than ever for reconstruction,
Yeah.
some of the reconstruction procedures are in my opinion, a little bit brutal. And, I have one client that I worked with who opted for immediate reconstruction with implants. And, we're almost 2 years in from when she had that procedure done, and she still kind of regrets it because she
Oh,
has had issues. She's had to help go back and have, some additional surgeries, and then some of the reconstruction. There's two types in particular that kind of always puzzled me. There is one where they take tissue from your latissimus dorsi muscles and move it to the front. So you can't do certain exercises once that happens. Like you can't do a lat pull down
right.
because you don't have your latissimus dorsi muscles are no longer in your back. There's another one where they take abdominal tissue and kind
Mm-hmm.
of cross it up through your body. And so all of a sudden, it makes doing abdominal exercises challenging because your abdominal muscles are no longer there, where they should be. And, these are some of the things that, sometimes because, and it's not the medical community's fault, but when you're going through cancer treatment, especially breast cancer treatment, where there's reconstruction, you have such a huge medical team that sometimes one person on the medical team presumes that someone else on the medical team told them that.
Mm,
That these are the things that are going to happen. And it's not just with reconstruction, it's several other things. I was just having this conversation with one of my clients the other day with another issue that she's had come up. But the other thing is, women will go back to the gym that they had been going to before, and all of a sudden, they might be working with a trainer who doesn't have cancer training and
mm-hmm.
doesn't have this specialized breast cancer reconstruction, and they don't understand. So, the trainer might have them trying to do a lat pull down, and it's just not going to work. Or they might
Right.
have them trying to do sit-ups. Again, it's just not going to work.
Right.
Um,
So, and I think there used to be the stigma of, breast cancer was an older woman's problem.
right.
And I'm floored by the number of young women that either they get the genetic testing that makes them a precursor to breast cancer, or they find out they have early
Mhm.
stage. Is the recovery and exercise plan is it very age dependent, or is it kind of a little bit of the same, but you cater it to the age group or whatever it might be?
It really depends on the woman themselves. I have some clients who have been active all of their lives,
Hmm.
and they are in better shape than some of my younger clients
Right.
who have not been as active.
Hmm.
So, one of the things when I'm considering taking a client in, the very first thing that we do is I do, essentially a mobility assessment. I kind of see where they are physically, and then I tailor the program based on where they are physically. So, the only thing that I might tailor a little bit for an older woman is, if balance is just kind of naturally becoming an issue,
Right.
we're going to focus a little bit more on the balance,
Hmm.
which is where you know, the BOSU comes in handy, as far as helping clients with balance. Um, so it really, like I said, it really varies on, how active was the woman before
Mm.
the the diagnosis.
Do you think there's more a mental health concern with younger women because of the societal views versus the older women?
It's not really something that I have looked at.
Okay.
Again, I think it varies from woman to woman. Like my 80-year-old, when she decided not to have reconstruction, she was just kind of, and this goes back 22 years. She was just kind of like, why bother, right?
Right. Right.
But there is a really active and cool group called the Flatties, which is women of all ages
Oh,
that have opted to not have reconstruction.
okay.
And it's really just such a personal decision that I don't think I don't think there's really an age basis.
Oh, okay. All right. Makes sense. What are some of the special considerations for, women that are currently undergoing the cancer treatment and what they should be or not really should be doing?
Sure. So the first thing is if you were active before your diagnosis, stay active throughout.
Mm,
Um, you know, you may have to modify a little bit. Some things that you want to consider though is if you have a port for chemotherapy or any other sort of treatment,
mm-hmm.
you want to be especially careful. If you have a port, you can't go swimming. So if you were always a swimmer, you're going to need to stay out of the pool.
Right.
Um, During treatment, you just naturally have a compromised immune system. So you may want to, if you're going to a larger gym, find off times that you can go. Um, if the gym is not 24 hours and you don't feel safe going in overnight, maybe speak to the gym owner, the gym manager, and see if maybe you can come into the gym before they open, or find a smaller gym for, a shorter period of time. Um, any types of surgeries that you're having, you need to kind of be mindful of that, and kind of listen to doctor's orders. Listen to your body is a huge one. We often think, when we're going through cancer treatment, okay, my energy is zapped, and so I don't have the energy to work out. But sometimes if you can just go for a walk, get some fresh air, maybe hit the treadmill for a few minutes, just, walking, it can
Yeah.
actually bring it, not only is it going to, improve your mood, but it might bring your energy level up. The other thing that all cancer patients need to be considerate of is if you have lymph nodes removed,
Mm,
you need to be especially cautious of lymphedema. You may need to wear a compression bandage when you work out. There are certain lymphedema movements that you should do after you warm up, but before you start your actual workout. And that's something that I educate all of my clients on, whether it's a regular cancer patient or a breast cancer patient. That lymphedema prevention is such a significant piece of everything. Um, so
you,
that's kind of the thing that I preach on a regular basis.
yeah, no, and it's probably one of the not so great things to do is let that edema build up and do something that causes it.
Right.
Because I can only imagine the medical problems that would come from having lymphedema and having that edema build up in their system.
Sure. And I had a client recently who she'd gone to the doctor and they were going to do her blood pressure, and she's had lymph nodes removed. And the nurse said, "Oh, I can't do she put her arm out and she's like, "Oh, I can't take your blood pressure from that arm. I have to do it from the other side." And my client looked at her and was like, "Well, why is that?" She's like, "Well, you had lymph nodes removed from this side of your body, so we need to go over here." And this again is kind of like, when you're going through medical treatment, again, you've got that team of doctors. So
Right.
either she was not told because somebody else thought it was, or you've got so much information being thrown at you when
Mm-hmm.
you're going through cancer treatment that, you know, she may have missed the fact that lymphedema was a potential issue for her.
Gotcha. You had spoken about the whole the reconstruction phase and exercising during the reconstruction phase. What are some of the exercises that you have your clients do as they're going through that type of situation?
Sure. So we do a lot of stretching and shoulder mobility. That's kind of a big one. And then based on what type of reconstruction they have had, or if they are planning on having reconstruction, sometimes they place expanders inside to start to stretch the tissue to accept whatever the reconstructive process is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up being kind of individualized from that point, because if somebody has expanders in place, we can't do a lot of cardio where we're jumping and kind of high impact moves,
Right.
which I typically don't do with my people anyway. Um, Different reconstructive procedures I touched on before. If you have had any of the flap surgeries, we have to either, avoid some back exercises or some abdominal exercises. But, initially, we just spend a lot of time on mobility, balance, and just kind of stretching, making sure that we're healing properly.
Yeah, because I mean, realistically, I mean, it's all connected. One way, that's
Exactly.
and outside of this conversation, but everything that I've learned about exercise recovery from exercise is that with everything being so connected, that the whole mobility, stability training, functionality training is so important in these situations, so important in anyone's situation, because you can go into a gym and lift 500 pounds or whatever, but when you're so sore that you can't go back the next day because you didn't work on your mobility or functionality,
Sure.
and you almost have to get scientific about some of these exercises, right?
Yeah, to some extent, over exercising is a huge problem in our society.
Yeah.
So we really have to learn to kind of take it slow, take it small. But as Americans, we're just kind of like all in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, especially if you're someone that has worked out your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Often I say there's as many tears of joy as there are tears of frustration and sadness in my studio. Because sometimes I'll have a woman who has worked out her entire life, and she can't even lift a 5-pound weight after going through treatment, because her doctor may not have released her for treatment, or for working out during
Right.
treatment.
Right.
So she's had several months where she hasn't been able to do anything, and now all of a sudden she's trying to regain that strength, and it sometimes it's the not the best reminder of what you've just gone through. So I always have to kind of tread lightly there and make sure that we stay, positive and focus on the things that we can do rather than the things that we can no longer do.
Yeah. No, that's so right. Have you identified like some of the common hurdles in this recovery period for people, after either this type of surgery, any kind of reconstruction, any common
Mhm.
hurdles that these people have?
Really so much of it is just trying to maintain that positive mindset, and
Mm,
not really focus on what used to be, but how we can move forward.
right,
And physically, really just the shoulder mobility.
right,
That's probably the number one thing that I see among everyone. It doesn't matter whether they have only had, and I shouldn't say only had, but if their treatment was as simple as radiation, which again, I don't mean to minimize that, excuse me, or if they've gone for double mastectomy, just the loss in shoulder mobility is sometimes very striking. And just cancer treatment is just such an assault on our bodies.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, you're depending on the treatment. I mean, you're either pumping you're pumping chemicals into your system, or you're
Sure.
taking on radiation, none of
Hmm.
which is a natural thing going on in your body. It's
Right.
it's going to wreak havoc. And to kind of what you were saying about the shoulder mobility, I don't know if anybody's thought about it, but if you think you move your shoulder, you feel it here. So
Right.
it's all connected, and you have to take that into account. Have you seen any great achievements on the horizon as far as treatment, as far as recovery, anything that's maybe new that could really help some of the clients that you work with?
um because I am seeing mostly clients after treatment, like I often think of myself as the next step after physical therapy. In fact, most
Okay.
people come to me and the first thing that they say to me, and it's just because of the lack of knowledge of the medical community with what I do. Again, kind of going back to, if a client goes and tells their doctor, or potential client goes and tells their doctor, hey, I need a medical release because I'm going to start working with this personal trainer, the
Mm-hmm.
doctor automatically thinks, hardcore, right? They don't understand that I'm not going to do that.
Right.
So most women come to me after they've finished their physical therapy, and one of the first things they say is, I've been released from physical therapy, but I'm not ready. But their insurance won't cover any more physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And, so they're looking for alternative routes, because a lot of times the physical therapist won't take them on a self-pay.
Right.
um, they've got to move on to their next client, that sort of thing.
Right.
Um, what I am seeing though is there's kind of two trends that I'm seeing, and they're kind of opposite. Women are making the decision, if they need to have a mastectomy, um, not to just have a single mastectomy, they're going double mastectomy.
Right.
Excuse me, let me just get a quick sip of my water here.
Oh, not a problem. I know how that is.
Fall, fall allergy season, right?
Oh yeah.
um, so they're going double mastectomy, just to make sure that there's no, spread of cancer or further recurrence. The
Right.
other thing is on kind of on the other spectrum is I'm seeing more non-invasive treatments. So,
Mm,
less surgeries unless it's absolutely necessary, trying radiation or chemotherapy before mastectomy. The other thing is just earlier detection. Earlier detection has really reduced the number of surgeries, and the
mm,
number of mastectomies, because we're becoming so sophisticated now, and even more and more women that have either a precursor or dense breast tissue are not just having a mammogram, but they're having an ultrasound in combination with that,
right.
which really is helping a lot with earlier detection.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think that if you're listening or watching this and you're going through treatment for breast cancer, or you're not sure what to do now that you've had your treatment or maybe had a procedure, that to know that there's options, and it's connecting with the right people, getting the right information, and doing what's best for you as the individual. So I think that this is such a great service that you're providing, and it's not anything that I've seen before. It's not anything that I've come across before. And to have a recovery expert that will take you from like you said, from past PT on into the
Mhm.
future to lead a healthy life and to stay healthy. I mean, that's so outstanding.
Thank you.
So with that, what's on your horizon? What's next for Beth Ann? What do you have, cooking up, or what are you working on?
Sure. So I received, I've actually been fortunate. There are actually grant opportunities out there for profit businesses. And I have received a couple of grants to help me expand my breast cancer program. So one of the things is that I most recently received a grant that is not only allowing me to provide some scholarships to women who maybe would not normally be able to afford my services, but that will allow me to expand. So I've always worked with women either in person or online, so it doesn't matter where you are. But I am focusing on building out that online piece of my breast cancer recovery program. I've put together just kind of an amazing, um, and I say amazing because that's what everybody tells me. 6-month breast cancer recovery program
Oh wow.
that utilizes the BOSU Balance Trainer, and I've been kind of just working with women in person on that. A little bit online if they couldn't travel, because I've mentioned I've got a woman who her son brings her a couple times a month to see me from
Hmm.
Syracuse.
Hmm.
But to be able to record the videos of the movements so that they're available online. So even if we are working in person, then you've got them, to do at home. Um, and just to be able to expand this program out, to be accessible to women everywhere, still with some personal guidance, because certainly everything is, different for every person, but there's still some commonalities. So just to be able to kind of take this program and really expand it and make it accessible for all women, is just a huge thing for me.
That's outstanding. And it's knowing your options and knowing your resources, and when
Mhm.
you don't have to be alone when it comes to treatment and post-op treatment.
Yes.
which is that's fantastic. One last question,
Excellent.
and again, anybody watching or listening, please like, comment, share all that good stuff. Share it with people. Share it around the around the globe. But one last question: what is your best pieces of advice for someone going through treatment, someone just post-op? What's your best pieces of advice moving forward for them?
Sure. Keep moving, first off. Secondly, just make sure you have a good support system. And,
Oh yeah,
sometimes it may not be, the people that are, your friends. It just may not be your friends and family. Sometimes it's hard for them to kind of understand, or it's hard for them to really kind of process what you're going through. There's a lot of really great communities out there of women with breast cancer, and I want to just point out that men get breast cancer too.
right.
Um, so just seek out that community. And I know a lot of the oncology practices in our area have support communities. Take advantage of those things.
Hmm.
Absolutely don't feel that, you don't need it, because I think a huge piece of overcoming any health challenge is really that mindset. If you can have a positive mindset through what is probably one of the worst things in your life, it really, really, truly does make a difference, in how your body reacts, how you feel, and how you approach it.
Yeah, mindset, like everything else, is the biggest component. If you are convinced that this is going to be horrible, you're going to die, whatever the negativity is that you put in your
Hmm.
mind, that you're poisoning your mind with, instead of saying, no, I'm going to adapt, I'm going to overcome, I'm going to survive this, I'm going to move forward, and I'll be stronger than ever, that's where your mind is going to go. And it's such a huge
Exactly.
component.
Hmm.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, Beth Ann, I thank you for joining me today. It's such great information. What's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to reach out?
Sure. So you can go to my website, which is bethandice.com, or you can call me at 315-887-1182. I am always more than happy to sit and chat with anybody. I always do a free assessment. There's no charge for that assessment, whether we decide to work together or not.
Awesome.
I will sit and we'll have an assessment. If you're not local to me, I can do that assessment online. That was part of my training through the Cancer Exercise Training Institute, is they actually taught us how to do a mobility assessment, including mobility measurements, through Zoom or other, video capabilities. So don't let geography stop you. And it doesn't matter whether you are a 6 year, a six decade cancer survivor. There is always opportunity to kind of improve your wellness, following that.
That's fantastic. And if you're in Central New York and you can't seem to find Beth, or can't find her website, whatever it might be, feel free to reach out or drop a comment on this video. Well, I'd be happy to connect you. I think you're doing such great work, such a great mission, and I wish you the greatest successes moving forward and helping folks get past their post op and into leading a normal healthy life.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Once again, please like, comment, share it with everyone. Share the message. These services are out there. Beth Ann's doing great work. And with that, until next time, everyone, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a great day.